Baruch Shechiyanu v'kiyamanu v'giyanu l'zman hazeh. Tonight we will finish Masechta Saita and we will start Masechta Gittin. I'm very excited that here in the shul we have so many wonderful people. We welcome in Baruch Ian, who should be here already, but he's, he thinks gas will go down next week. Ruvain Palak, Yitzi Muller, Mo Kushner, Eddie Chazan, Chaim, I really miss you here, Moshe Lehman, Nachman Chaplin, Nachman, you're very missed as well, Aaron Swade, Mel Zachter, Shelley Zeitlin, Meir Sadin, Rabbi Kranz, Ben Zion Cohn, Jacob Frankel, who is, I assume, your son. We have a father and son team. Jacob, regards from your father. Richard Rosenzweig, Ilya Shutman, and Sandy Grunfeld is joining us. Sandy, we would love to have you down here as well. And over here in the shul, we have Berish Gessman, who just arrived in time. Gedalia Engel, my Shver, Reb Danziger, and Reb Averbach. Reb Averbach is perhaps the longest Talmud of mine here in the room. I think even before Saba. Reb Averbach, you were in the first cycle that I taught in Borough Park, right?
Tazayin Cheshvan is going to be 30 years.
30 years? Are you longer than 30 years?
Just that we were together, we're sitting next to each other for years.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, he's not here tonight. He's not here tonight because he has a conflict. But we have a sponsor from Masechta Gittin. One of my He for sure was in my share 40 years ago. And he also did work on my shul 31 years ago. He did the plumbing in my shul in Staten Island in the Aguda. A.B. Spry is sponsor. Oh, no. Who is this? This might be Los Angeles. A.B. Spry is joining us via TorahAnytime.com. He's sponsoring the shir in a unique way. Nobody ever sponsored it for this, and I'm a little sad about it. But he's sponsoring it with the tefillah to Hashem that all children should be able to get into yeshivas. This has become a new problem today, Rabbi say. Children can't get into yeshiva. The yeshiva asks if the father has chavrusas, and if he has chavrusas all 6 days of the week, and what kind of phones the parents use, and then after all of that, the children don't get into yeshivas. I was telling my wife that I would imagine that neither I nor she would have gotten into yeshiva in the olden days. My father was working very hard. He didn't have a chavrusa every night. I don't know if my shver had a chavrusa every night. My shver worked day and night. It's a scary business. It really, and it's a little bit reminiscent in Russia. They couldn't go to yeshiva, but then it was because of the NKVD or the KGB, not because of Yidden. So anyway, he said to me, "What do you feel about making such a dedication?" He says, "Well, if their kids aren't in yeshiva, then they need our tefillas and they need our zechusim to be able to get into yeshiva and to be able to feel wanted." We have here, as I was saying, Reb Averbach and Reb Kramer, Reb Nachum Umansky, Mark Frankel, all the way from Philadelphia, and my good friend and Talmud Irving Fishbaum and Dr. Bruce Eisenberg, also all the way from Staten Island, which might be further than Philadelphia. We have Saba and Shimon Deer and Abram Schenkman, Moshe Jacklin. We have Pesach Siegelman, Michael, what's your name? Shaya Sobel. Shaya Sokol. And we have Reb Goldstein, and we have all the way in the back over there, Reb Heimlich. It's great to have you. Henach Korman. Henach Korman. I'll get it right, eventually. You have to come here more often, then I'll get it right. David Helfgott on Kol HaLoshen. Okay, so I want to start. Oh, Baruch. Oh, I stalled. I was talking about the weather. I was talking about. Yeah. Okay. So I want to start off with the kasha that the whole world asks, and that is, why do we start? Why is the order Gittin and then Kedushin? It should be Kedushin and then Gittin. Kedushin comes first. We learn Gittin and then Kedushin. Why? So the authoritative answer to this question is a Rambam in the Pirush HaMishnayos. The Rambam in the Pirush HaMishnayos says that it's because of the lashon of the pasuk. It says because of la sefer krisis, v'holcha v'hoisa leish acher. So because of la sefer krisis is to write a get, and then v'holcha v'hoisa leish acher, that's kedushin. So therefore, and since in the lashon of the pasuk it says gittin and then kedushin, that's why gittin and kedushin. I mean, that pasuk is talking about get, but there's another pasuk ki yikach ish isha that talks about kedushin. Well, why should you do Gittin before Kedushin? First of all, Gittin is rare. Kedushin is everybody, and Kedushin is first. It's so the Welt says a teretz, which I'm sure everybody is thinking. Rabbi Weiss, you never heard what we welcome him Michal Druck from Delaware. Well, Rabbi Weiss, you don't know the answer that the Welt says that Hashem created the refuah before the Makkah. That's what the Welt says. We know that there's a refuah before the Makkah. Baruch, there's a seat right next to Gedalia. Yeah, you have a Gemara there? Ah, good. I would have had to start over for you, you know what I mean? Okay, Abe Arbach has joined us, Ilya Shutman has joined us, Dr. Black, Eddie Holtzman, Harrison Kletzel is coming on now the Olam is firing up over here. I don't like that answer either. You know, that's what they say, Hashem. It's true, Hashem creates the refuah before the Makkah, so Haman made sure to have that Vashti was killed, so Esther should be in place before Haman tried his genocide against the Jewish people, so that was the refuah before the Makkah. That's true. There is such a concept. But to say Gittin is before Kedushin, that's the refuah before the Makkah, makes marriage sound like a Makkah. Marriage not a Makkah. Marriage is the sweetest thing in the world. Marriage is... So I want to give two terutzim. This teretz I hold, I hold. But I like this teretz very much. The reason why they put Gittin before Kedushin is because they want to teach you're learning Gittin. You should know that before you get married, consider get very carefully. Know that there's such a thing as a get, that a marriage can't work out, and think about who you're marrying before you marry her, before you marry him. Think about a get before you get married. Oh, I never thought there would be a problem. I didn't think about it. He was nice. She's pretty. Don't get married until you think about getting. If you don't think you're going to have a get, then marry the person. But if you don't know, he's temperamental, she's all self-centered, don't marry. You want to have a get? Think about get before. I think that, to me, that has a ring of emes to it. Then I'll tell you another answer. This also, to me, sounds true. Everybody says, why is Gittin before Kedushin? The real thing is that Gittin is after Saita. And that's the reason why it's Gittin's first. Because if a woman is going to act like a Saita and be flirtatious, she's going to end up with a get. And that's why Gittin is after. It's not because Gittin is before Kiddushin. It's because it comes after Saita. And we know Neder and Nadarim and Nazir is because it says Linder, Neder, Nazir, La'azal, Hashem. And after Nazir is Saita because Misha Ra Saita B'Kilkula, Yazar Atzmim, and we all know that. And then after Saita comes Gittin because you're going to act like a Saita Chas V'Shalom, you're going to end up with a get. A woman has to be a Tzenua. Should act, and if the husband warns her, Avada, don't do that. You do that, you're going to end up with a get. Also, it could also be, one other thing, it could also be that we want to finish Seder Nashim B'Davar Tov. We always like to finish with a good thing. To finish with Gittin is Nish Gishmak. I have to tell you, it's a Meshigas by me. But I had a Gittel that I could have named my daughters after. Because my father's mother was Esther Gittel. Now, Esther I couldn't give because that's my mother's name. But I could have given the name Gittel. I'll tell you, I could have given Gittel. Maybe if she didn't die very young in the gas chambers, that was one reason. But the mice is Kedoshim, people give a name. But I couldn't give a name that contains in it the word get. Even though you should know where does the name Gittel come from, is a Gutala. A good person. Also, it's got. So it's good and it's got. But my is it was mishkas by me. I couldn't give the name Gittel. Why is it called the get? Get isn't even Hebrew. Get is Aramaic. You want to know why a get is called the get? A get is called the get because in Gematria, get is how much? 12. So Tosfos says there's 12 lines in a get. That's a standardized get, has 12 lines. So that's why it's called the get, because it has 12 lines. So there's a famous word, I think it's from the Gaon, that nowhere in the Torah, in any word in Tanakh, not Torah, any word in Tanakh, is a gimel ever next to a tes. Nowhere. There's no word. See, Baruch is thinking, let me check it up. He's going through. Baruch, you can trust me. You don't have to. He's up to Amos. He's passing through Chabakuk. No. Yeah. Even Gedalia can't do that. You know who could do it? Rav Chaim Kanievsky, because when Rav Chaim Kanievsky said it over, he said, "Let me tell you the other letters that are not next to each other." Let me tell you the other letters. That was Rav Chaim Kanievsky. But so they say that's another reason why it's called get, because it involves total severance. So there's never a gimel next to test in the Ganze Tanakh. There's one other famous reason. There was a stone called the Gita stone that was able to cut through even the sharpest stones. And therefore the get dissolves even the very strong bond of a marriage. We have to get started because otherwise the chalent might burn. But it's a good chalent. I put it up early. I made the chalent. It's a team effort. I made the chalent. My wife made the kugel. So you're in very good hands. I put in a lot of chicken so Baruch could have chicken. The Rabbi said there'll be a little kugel left after Mark has 6 pieces. Okay, so there's a lot of talk about who says there could be a gematria on an Aramaic word. We just said get is Aramaic. Whoever heard of gematria in Aramaic? Lashon Kodesh is an intrinsic language. So there's gematrias. You can't hear us. Thank you, Marshall. That's very, very sharp. Not that I want to hear Marshall, but other people maybe. Thank you very much, Marshall. Marshall, you didn't think I just muted you?
I was really self-conscious. I think I'll take one of my medicines for that.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, Marshall, it's good to have you too. You know, I think this is one night where we might have more people in the shul than on Zoom. That's not very usual, you know. Yeah, you know something? We have more people in the shul tonight than on Zoom. I think we have 28 people here, and that's Koyach, and I think we have 27 Zoomers so far. We're missing some people. I'm looking for Shalom Fogel. He's not with us, and but anyway, so this is a big kasha. So some want to say that since Onkelos is Messinai, and it's written in Aramaic, there's a Gemara Megillah that Onkelos is Messinai, so therefore the Lashon of Aramaic could have gematrias as well. You can't make gematrias in English. You know, somebody says, "What's the gematria of Harry Potter?" You know, you can't make. You know, the gematria of Harry Potter is Kishif. You know, it doesn't work. You know, I know there's a lot of people that saying, "What is Harry Potter?" I guess. You know, that's like the Maisa that I had in Borough Park. I told you we had a Subway series. And this, you mentioned Reb Fink. This is a Maisa with Reb Fink. So we had a Subway series. If you don't know a Subway series, it's the Mets played against the Yankees in the World Series. And I think it was either the 6th or the 7th game of the World Series. And I came to Staten Island, my daf in Staten Island. Irving was there, I remember it. And I said, look, it's so nice that everybody's here on the night of a World Series. You know, everybody's here. And, you know, everybody was smiling. And then I came in and I said the same thing in the Borough Park. The game was still going on because I tuned into it in the car to hear what was going on. So while I was driving, so I came into Borough Park and I said, it's so nice that everybody is here. It's a Subway series. And Reb Fink asked me, what's a Subway series? He thought it was a sandwich. You know, what's a Subway series? Yeah. You would have known what a Subway series is? Maybe not. No. Saba, you would have known, right? No, also not. Okay.
Just as young.
The Subway series, yeah.
I'm not American.
Yeah, not American. Well, Saba isn't either. Yeah, Saba isn't either. But everybody else in the room knows what a Subway series is, you know. But anyway, okay, so we're going to start off with a unique din about get. The whole daf is about a unique, actually the first 5 blot is all about this law. If somebody brings from outside of Eretz Yisrael a get, in other words, the husband sent a get with a shliach. So the shliach, in order for the get, you'll say, if he brings the get, it's good. It has 2 witnesses on it. He said the husband told him to deliver it. That should be enough. It's not. He has to be able to say the formula, b'fanai nichtav or b'fanai nechtav. In front of me it was written, and in front of me it was signed. Now we're going to see in the Gemara that there's 2 possible reasons for this. Either because outside of Eretz Yisrael, they don't always know the din that a get has to be written lishma for the sake of that woman. So he has to say, in front of me it was written for her. Or it's because ein edem mitzion l'kaimai. If he brings the get from Asia and gives it to the woman, and then the husband comes running, it was a forgery, she's stuck. Because then she brings it to Beis Din Eretz Yisrael, and she needs witnesses to confirm the signatures. But nobody in Eretz Yisrael recognizes these signatures. They're from Asia. And she'd never be able to get married. So therefore they instituted that the shliach says, in front of me it was written, and in front of me it was signed, and he's believed like two witnesses. We'll see why that is. And therefore, if later the husband comes and yells forgery, she could still get married. So that's what the whole first 5 blot is about. So you could go home now. No. Maybe get Medina again. If a shliach brings a get from overseas, outside of Eretz Yisrael, except from Bavel, he has to say the formula b'fanei nichtav, in front of me it was signed, written, b'fanei nichtav, in front of me it was signed. Rabbi Gamliel says not just from far away. This sounds like the continents of beyond the sea. No. That's the Targum of Kodesh and Barad, which is right outside of Eretz Yisrael, but it's not in Eretz Yisrael proper. Still, he has to say b'fani nichtam, b'fani nachtam. Rebbe Eliezer Aimer afilu mikfar ludim lelud, even from the village, the hamlet of Ludim to Lud. Now, Lud was in Eretz Yisrael, and Kfar Ludim was right outside. They were sister cities. Even from Kfar Ludim lelud, you have to say b'fani nichtam, b'fani nachtam. The Chachamim say no, not from so close. From overseas, whether you bring it from overseas, or you take it from Eretz Yisrael to overseas. Or if you bring from one continent to another continent overseas, you also have to say the formula of in front of me it was written and in front of me it was signed. Rab Shim Gamliel Aimer, afilu mehagmonia lahagmonia, even if it's not one continent to another continent, even if it's in the same continent, but if it's from one governorship to another governorship, in other words, one town was controlled by one baron and the other town was controlled by another baron, and there wasn't easy access from one town to the other because there were checkpoints and it wasn't easy to get from one to another, you have to say b'fani nichta, b'fani nechta. Rabbi Yudaimer Merekem Ulam Mizrach, from Rekem and further east, that's already outside of Eretz Yisrael. V'Rekem Kemizrach, and Rekem is already outside of Eretz Yisrael. Me'Ashkelon L'Darm, from Ashkelon to the south and further south, that's out of Eretz Yisrael. V'Ashkelon Kedarm, Ashkelon is outside of Eretz Yisrael. Me'Akoy L'Tzafim, from Akko to the north, V'Akoy Kitzafim, and Akkoy is also outside of Eretz Yisrael, like the rest of the north beyond. Rameir Aimer, no, Akoy Keretz Yisrael Gittin. Maybe get Eretz Yisrael, but if you bring a get from one place to Eretz Yisrael to another, ain't it tzarich sheyomer b'fanei nichta b'fanei nechtam, you don't have to say before me it was written, or before me it was signed, and then, if the husband yells, it's a forgery, if there is people that make a claim that it's a forgery, then yiskayim b'chaysamav, it gets confirmed by its signatories. Either the witnesses themselves come to court and testify that they signed it, or 2 Eidim come for each signature that we recognize the signature. You could confirm the get that way as well. There's another way, and that is there were certain well-known witnesses, and their signatures were archived already in the court. So if the court could compare the witnesses to that which they already have a confirmed document in the court, that would also be a way to confirm the get. So says the Gemara, yeah, that's a good point. It's interesting that you said it, because I was thinking that. Moshe Jackman just said that in other cycles, I said in the schus of learning Gittin, we should never have to deal with the get. That's a very good thing to say, not just ourselves, but for our children and our grandchildren. We should all have good, healthy marriages. A good, healthy marriage a good, healthy marriage, Rabbi say, is, you could put all the work in the world into your children, but if they marry the wrong person, It's a very big problem. Person has to thank Hashem when their children have good marriages. It's a big gift from the Rabbeinu Shalom, and it should never be taken for granted. Our marriages and our children's marriages can never be taken for granted. Marriage, the institution of marriage is not normal. It's not natural. It's not natural for a man and a woman to get along. They're very different. And it's not natural for a man that comes from one family and a woman that comes from another family. Each have different norms and different customs. It's very hard. It takes tolerance, it takes compromise, it takes patience. So in the schus of our learning, we should all be blessed with that our marriages, our children's marriages, should be b'shalom or b'shalva. So the Gemara asks, my time, what's the reason why we say b'fani nechta, b'fani nechta? What's the reason? Like I said, why does the shliach have to? The husband said, be a shliach. He was a shliach. He brings it. What's this b'fani nechta, b'fani nechta? Rabba says, lefi she'ein b'kiyan lishma. Rabba says, because overseas, they don't know about lishma. There's a din that the get here, his name is Chaim, her name is Gittin. So he has a friend that was thinking about giving a get. He went through the whole cost of paying the cipher, and then he changed his mind. He says, look, it says Chaim and Gittin from the city of Shnippershak, use my get. So overseas, they don't know that you can't do that. It says because of law, it has to be written for her. So therefore, the shliach has to say, no, I saw it was written for her. Rav Amarav says a different reason. Because here in Eretz Yisrael, the get came from Asia. If the husband comes and says it's a forgery, the witnesses don't live here. How is it going to be confirmed? In the meantime, she's going to be an aguna. Maybe the witnesses died. So therefore, we say that let the witness say that it was written in front of him, and therefore and signed in front of him, and we will consider that a confirmation. Why it's enough with one witness when normally we need two witnesses, so that we'll see in the Gemara. But the Gemara asks, my beinai, what's the difference between the two opinions? Either way, you have to say, what's the difference if the reason is because of lishma, or the reason is because of confirmation? So the Gemara says three differences. And it's very nice that we have joining us Michal Druck. It's very good to have you from Delaware. We will welcome you to our Zoom family, Michal. It's good to have you. And we have Jeffrey Nyman joining us. So we already have 29 Zoomers here tonight, with so many Zoomers here in attendance. That's amazing. It's amazing. What? Marshall, I expected you here. Hey, Marshall. I had Franks in the Cholent. No, I didn't. But anyway, I don't want to scare anybody. You know? My wife would never like me to put Franks in the Cholent. She says, what are you doing? You want to kill the people? You know? Anyway, my wife has an allergy against Franks. Okay, what could you do? Nobody could be perfect, you know, so she doesn't like Franks. Okay, what can you do? But anyway, I got to come to somebody's house for Franks. So says the Gemara, so my beinayu, ike beinayu da asiyu beitrei. This is a very interesting difference. Where from overseas 2 witnesses came. Now we're going to learn, although Tosfos has a big problem with this, but we're going to learn this means that 2 witnesses came and decided to live in Bnei Brak. So now you don't have to say b'fani nechtam, because they saw the get. If the husband comes in forgery, we do have witnesses here, because they're here. Inami, but if it's because of lishma, then we still need it. Because so what if they're 2 witnesses? But we need to know that it was written lishma. Inami mimedina lemedina be'eretz Yisrael. Oh, from one country to another country in Eretz Yisrael. Remember, there wasn't, trains and all these things in those days. From one country to another country in Eretz Yisrael, it wasn't easy to get to. So if the reason is Als Lishma and Eretz Yisrael, they know Lishma, so it's not needed. But if there's a reason because we won't get witnesses to confirm it, then we need it even in Eretz Yisrael if it's from one country to another country. Inami ba'oisa Medina b'Medina Sayam. Oh, if it's in the same country overseas. So if the reason is because they don't know Lishma, we need it. But if it's the reason because the witnesses aren't around, here, since it's in the same country, they are around. Okay. Says the Gemara, according to Rabbah, that says the reason why you have to say b'fani neklam is to give testimony that it was written Lishma. Wait a second. This is Eidos about an Eishes Ish. You should need two witnesses. Al pi shnayim edim yakum davar. U'l'rabba dam l'fi she'ein b'kim l'shma li'boi trei. Should need two witnesses. Midei dahavi akolid yoshe b'Torah. Every testimony in the Torah, it says al pi shnayim edim yakum davar. Says Gemara, no, that's not true. You could come to my house and eat meat. I believe it's kosher. Why am I believe? Because eidach adem b'yisurim. Otherwise, Mark wouldn't eat the chalent. But he checked up, so he's going to eat the chalent. Right? I put in lamb in it, So anyway, so the Gemara says, says Gemara, nah, not so fast. We believe one witness when it comes to Isurim.
What's the Isser? She's Isser.
Should be, well, the Isser is she was an Eishes Ish, and he's saying that it was dissolved properly. So the Gemara doesn't accept that. The Gemara says, you know why you could eat my chalent? Because I have a Cheskes Kashrus. But she has a Cheskes Eishes Ish. She has a Cheskes Isser. Where there's a Cheskes Isser, to dissolve it, you need two witnesses. There's a piece of meat, we're not sure if it's forbidden chaylev or if it's kosher satmar meat. Where there's no presumption of isser. So there we could believe Irving that it's kosher. But over here, the iskazik yisur, she was an Eishes Ish. Now you're saying, she was a married woman, now you're saying it's dissolved. To remove an Isser Misa of Eishes Ish, it's a Davar Shebe'erva. It's a matter of Erva, of Isser Erva. You don't have it less than two. Says the Gemara, no. Here you have a Roiv. Even in Chutz La'aretz, most people know that a get has to be written for the woman. Roiv b'kiyanheim. So we're only married about a miyat. And even Vafilu Rameir Dechayish L'miyuta, who's concerned about a miyat, wait a second. This isn't even a miyat, because who writes a get? A regular person doesn't write a get, the Sefer writes the get. The Stam Safrei Dedainai, most ciphers, Migma Gemiri, they know the laws. They know the custom law that has to be written. Oh, so it's a very far miyat. V'Rabbanan hudatzu. The Rabbanan said we got to be careful, so they made a higher standard. Oh, they made a higher standard. Really, we should believe it without. So then why didn't they necessitate two witnesses? Called the Tikkun Rabbanan Ke'en D'Oraisa Tikkun. But no, Mishum Iguna Ekiluba. Here, because they didn't want her to be to wait. If you're going to have to come with two witnesses, she'll end up not getting her get, and she'll end up being an aguna. Ekiluba Rabbanan. The Rabbanan were mekel. Now, we're going to finish Saita now. Don't worry, I'm not learning the whole daf over, even though Baruch wasn't here last night. But Baruch, you probably listened to it, right? Otherwise, Baruch would have asked me to learn the whole daf, and that last night's daf really took a long time. Whoa, really took a long time. We are holding Masechta Saita 2 lines from the end of the Masechta. So 2 lines from the end of Masechta. Don't worry, it shouldn't take more than an hour. Don't worry. Amalei Rav Yosef Latana. Rav Yosef said to the Tana, Baruch, I want to take a picture of the Zoom. Amalei Rav Yosef Latana, it says, Mishemeis Rebbe, when Rabbeinu HaKadosh, and I'm not sure you were sitting in the corner, I'm not sure if I welcome you when I welcome everybody. So we also have our steady, Rabbi Avram Shenkman, learning with us. You might want to take with me with the Zoom. Come around over here. Says the Gemara, Mishemeis Rebbe, when Rebbe passed away, Batla Anava V'yiras Chet, humility and fear of sin ceased on that very high level of Rabbeinu HaKadosh. So Amalei Rav Yosef Latana, Rav Yosef said to the Tana that was recording this, Loi Tisnei Anava. Don't teach humility, De'ika Ana, because I'm still here. Now, to most people, that sounds like a joke. You know, it's somebody says, nah, I'm a big Anav. He says, don't teach Anava. Don't say Anava is over. It's still me. You know, so. Moshe Rabbeinu was the biggest Anav, Mikol Adam. But Moshe Rabbeinu also knew that he knew the Torah better than anybody else. So what's pshat? How could he be the biggest Anav? And the answer is that Moshe Rabbeinu, Rav Miller says this rule. Rav Miller says that Anava is in direct proportion of how much you're aware of Hashem. The more you're aware of Hashem, the more you know that it's not you. And who was aware of Hashem more than anybody else? Moshe Rabbeinu, because no one was Roya Hashem panim Kamoshe. So when Rav Yosef said, "Is still me," what he meant is that I know that it's not for me. I know that what I have is only from the Rebbeinu Shalom, and that's a talent. You know, it's. You know, I told you that many years ago, when I had the big shir in Borough Park, Rav Schwab asked me, how could I say a shir l'shem Shemayim? And you know, I was stunned that he asked me that. I remember I was dumbfounded. I didn't answer anything. You know, you feel good, you're saying a shir to hundreds of people. How can you do it l'shem Shemayim? So the answer is, if you're on the madrega of a Rav Yosef, is, yeah, but that's not me. That's what God gave me. So God gave it to me. So, but Rav Schwab said, I feel good because Rav Schwab didn't say that, because we're not on that level. We got egos, you know. Rav Schwab said, you can't. But there are people in the crowd that work the whole day and their eyes are closing and they're looking at the clock and they're pushing themselves. They're learning Lishma. And you're causing it, that's your Lishma. That's what Rav Schwab told me. And I always felt that that's the meaning of Mitalmida Yosim Mikulan. We get from our Talmud more than everything. Because what we get from our Talmidim is a big thing. Amalei Rav Nachman Latana, Rav Nachman said to the Tana, Lo tisna yiras chet, don't say fear of sin, de'ika ana, there's I. Now it's interesting that Rav Nachman was a very great dayan. Rav Nachman Dainahu, the Yored L'Umke Dedina, says that a Dayan has to feel that there's a sword perched between his feet if he makes a mistake in din. And obviously Rav Nachman felt the pachad of making a mistake in the din. It's a very scary thing, when I became Rav, it's now almost 41 years ago, so I asked my first Rebbetzin Aleh Shalom, said, at that time she was all of 20 years old. And I said to her, you're getting yourself into, it's not as simple to be a Rebbetzin. I described to her, you'll be living in a fishbowl. Is there anything that you don't want me to do? And at that time she said, I don't like that the women are going to come with their underwear to the house. Is there any way that you don't have to paskenidas? So I said, look, I'll put in my shtar rabbanis, then I'm not going to paskenidas. There are other people, Rab Ruven is here, Rab Balak is here. She said, I really would like that. I don't know if you ever knew, Irving, that's why I didn't paskenidas all the years, but that's the reason. That's the reason. My wife didn't want it, so I put it in. But Lamaisa is, she did me a big favor. Because I watched Reb Leibel Katz. In my day, Reb Leibel Katz was one of the big Rabbanim that paskenidas, Reb Leibel Katz. I used to see him pick up phones with both hands. He was so busy with it. And it's a big achrayas. You're paskin, a woman is mutter to her husband. She's really not. It's an Issacharias. You're paskin, a woman is not, and she really is, and you make the husband wait, and it's really serious stuff. And we don't realize the people that take it upon themselves to do these things. Rav Nachman was a dayan. He had yiras chet. What's going to be if I make a sin and I take money away from somebody and really it's their money? It's a bit... Hanrulach Egla Rufa, what a geschmack perek Masechta, Uslikala Masechta Saita, Hanrulach Egla Rufa, Uslikala Masechta Saita, Hanrulach Egla Rufa, Uslikala Masechta Saita. Hanrulach Masechta Saita, Mahadra Chalon, Daitan Allah Masechta Saita, Vadaita Chalon. Leinis Neshemi Nach Masechta Saita, Leisis Neshemi Non Lei Balma Dain, Velei Balma Dasi. Hanrulach Masechta Saita, Vahadra Chalon, Daitan Allah Masechta Saita, Vadaita Chalon. Leinis Neshemi Nach Masechta Saita, Leisis Neshemi Non Lei Balma Dain, Velei Balma Dasi. I said it 3 times. Yiratzim Ofanachad, Ignoyelhin Velei Visayna Shisei, Sayraskom Nasayna Bailamazeh, Usayman Olayla Maba, Hanin Bapabrami, Bapabanachman, Bapapachai, Bapapa, Abamari, Bapapa Rafman, Bapapa Rakish, Bapapa Surka, Bapapa, Bapapa Doru, Bapapa, Harav Nadi, Noyelhin was the Vesaras, Rabafina Bafifia Samkabase Sol. Venia Nachnu, Venia Kalanu Anach, Vitzain, Vitzain, Amkabase Sol. Kulanu Yadei Shemech, Avalim de Sarisach, Lishma, me I Vaisach, made Mitsach, Lamili, Yili be some Mekach Lamandli, Eva Shalom, Layashka, Kudecha, Kivam, Kisani, Barakatari, Noilam, Danish Kecha, Mena, Main Sullivan, my Manaklu, Fanaka, Noilan, Lovasin. She Samta, Helkanim, Yashwe, Baseman, Rishwell, Samta, Helkanim, Yashwe, Kronish, Shana Mashkim, 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 Ludwig, Tove, Mashkim, Ludwig, Betain, Manu Amelim, Mamelim, Anu Amelim, Kamascar, Mamelim, and Makamascar, Ratzim, Ratzim, Chayalam Abba, Baim Ratzim, Leber Shaka, Shinema Talim, Teridam, Leber Shaka, Sanjay Dam, Mimmo, Yaksiyam, Vani Eftach, Bach, Ratzim, Fanachadina, Leno, ולהי אביסנו, כשם שעזרתנו לסיים מסכת סייטה, כן תעזרנו לעשות מסכת ססמה מאחרים לסיימם, ללמד וללמד לשמוע ולעשות ולקיים את כל דברי סמטר וסך באהבה. וזכוס כל התנאים והמראים בסלמידי חכם יעמלנו לזרענו, שלא יתמש התורה מפינו מפי זרענו וזרע זרענו עד העולם, וזכאים בנו בסלך ותנך עיסך, בשאך בך תשמר עליך והקיצה יסעיס שיחך כי בימך ויוסיף לך שני שחיים אורך ימים ימין ושמאל איש ובכווננו יזמו ייתן אדוני יברך את עמי בשלום